Sat Sri Akal, everybody. I'm Tania Kaur, and
I'm Manpreet Singh.
today we wanted to talk about the topic of marriage and basically how we met, how we got married, a short introduction on that, and just going into what were our expectations going into marriage, what were some surprises along the way, and how have we grown. So let's start off. We met in 2010. We met at a birthday party. Neither one of us knew each other. And we started talking soon after that. We talked for about a good year, right? We talked for about a good year before we had a Roka, before we kind of unofficially tied the knot with our,
That's
parents.
like a pre-engagement.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Not tying the knot, but pre-engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had a good year of getting to know each other, talking, and then finally bringing the parents in, and wanting to you know make it for real. So I guess based on what we knew about each other, um, at that time, we want to talk about what were some of our expectations of marriage, or what were you thinking the marriage was going to be like going into it at that time, and has it been like that or not?
I think the marriage has been great. I mean, the marriage has been great. Obviously, it's great we're doing this podcast together, but it's more like the expectations I had. I don't think I was really disappointed or really like taken aback by what it's not like it's not like I married you and then suddenly you're like a different woman 2 weeks later. Like that didn't happen. You
It's not
were,
like you got Jekyll and Hyde.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
good.
No, no, no. No, no, no. So it was so that was a very like smooth transition for
Hmm.
me. It's like, okay, you are when we were dating and now we're married and now we get to obviously spend more time together. You know, wherever I am, you're there. wherever wherever I
Like,
go,
surprise.
yeah, wherever I go. So I don't know. For me, it was. I mean, there's a couple of things maybe we'll get into, but overall, I think it was like the same thing, which
Yeah.
helps. Which, like, that's who you fall in love with, and now you're married, and people have all these things that they say about, oh, the honeymoon phase is over and all that stuff. But I don't know. If you marry the right person, I think it's honeymoon all day.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I think so. Going in, I mean, obviously it was new for the both of us. Um, but I think going in, everyone kind of expects that, rosy colored glasses, uh, perception of like what marriage is going to be like, especially I think from a girl's point of view. You think it's just going to be like all, you know, romanticism all the time. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But I mean, you did kind of, set that precedent when we were dating, that it was very romantic all the time. So I just naturally just expected that all the time. After we got married too. Doesn't matter if dad was there or mom was there. But yeah, expectation wise, I think, you've definitely lived up to all my expectations, but I didn't really have, um, I don't think I had too many like hardcore expectations going into it, because I came from a joint family. Marriage is marriage is going to be work at some points, but I do think a lot of people going into it, when people give you advice, people have said, "Oh, it's hard work. Marriage is tough. It can be really tough, and it's you both got to compromise. It's so much compromise, and so you kind of get a little bit taken aback sometimes when you think like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Is it the right person? Because every marriage has its own ups and downs. So when you have the right person, you think sometimes it makes the downs a little easier. So you always have those doubts until you really get married. and you get to know the person and you start living together, I think you really don't know for sure. So that's why I think people get scared or they get cold feet because you don't know, and people get in your head sometimes.
Right.
But yeah, I think it was always smooth sailing, and even like whatever downs we had, even that I feel like it was never really like crazy. I don't know. It's been 13 years. I
Right.
don't remember
Mm.
of like maybe I can count on my hand the number of times that maybe we've had like fights or arguments, but even then it was never like full blown crazy where I'm not talking to you, you're not talking to me, and yeah. So I guess in my head I had that kind of perception that when you have fights or arguments or you butt heads, it's going to be crazy. But to my expectation, it was not like that. It was, yeah.
Yeah. No. Mine too. I can't even remember fights. I really.
Yeah.
It's definitely less than a handful, and it's not even that big. It lasts for like less than an hour.
Yeah.
So 13, that's pretty amazing now that I think about it. That is pretty amazing. But I want to talk about marriage advice because
Okay.
the the best marriage advice I've gotten, and everyone tells you this is the the marriage advice that I hate the most is like, oh, it's 50-50.
Mhm.
You compromise and all that. And that's just like a bunch of BS. That's where people that I don't want to say this. This might also sound too harsh. It's like, are people in love or not? Like, do
Mm.
people love each other or don't love each other? So the best marriage advice I've heard. This was in like a sick seminar too, and it was just happened to be my cousin, but he was running the seminar, and he's like, people say about 50-50 and compromise and all that stuff. And this is the marriage advice I give. And this is the marriage advice I gave in my cousin's speech, that there is no 50-50. You give 100, she gives 100.
Mhm.
So it's 100-100. Now, when 100-100 comes together, that's
That's
great.
200.
But that's great synergy.
Yeah.
That's not like, that's what it's supposed to be. And some people don't even get that. Like, how are you going to give 100? Like, it's a
Yeah.
compromise if she doesn't like. The problem is, there's no secret, but I think the way I interpret it is like, if you want to do something and I don't want to do it, it doesn't matter because I'm giving it 100 and I love you so much that those things that I'm doing doesn't matter. I don't think of it as like me compromising for the sake of you. I think
Mhm.
of it as, oh, I'm going to do it because I love you. And this is
Yeah.
just, this is our life
Yeah.
and it's us together. It's never like 50-50 or anything like that. I heard this other advice from like, I'm on TikTok all day. I've heard this other advice because of my work too. I mean, I'm a social media director. It's not like I'm just on TikTok all day
You're
not
not
doing any
scrolling
work.
all day.
Yeah, yeah. But I heard this advice from this lady, and I think she's famous, but I forgot her name. But she's like, yeah, it's not 50-50. Sometimes it's 80-20. If I'm having a bad day and I come in and I tell my husband that, oh, I don't have 50 today. I only have 20 today. You got to do the 80. And I'm like, what kind of way is that to live, man? Like, it doesn't matter. If you have a bad day, your husband should already know, or your wife should already know that you're already giving it 100%. Like, even your bad day, I know you're trying to give it 100% no matter
Mhm.
how much energy you have in the tank,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think people should look at it in numbers and keeping score.
Mhm.
I think it's more about just being together and having that honeymoon phase. When you were dating, there's a different vibe. And now
Yeah.
when people get married, there's a different vibe. But if you still keep that dating vibe, that honeymoon phase,
Yeah.
and just love each other with all the faults that you promised that you'll do when you said I do,
Mhm.
or matatek in front of Guru Granth Sahib,
Yeah.
so then let's do it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I think.
No, I 100% agree with that too. But I think, you know, two personalities coming together.
Right.
You grew up a different way, you were raised a different way, you have different habits, different traits. I have different habits, different traits.
Right. Yeah.
We're not the same personality. We're different in so many ways, and then when you two people come together and you start living together, you're in such close proximity, you're gonna see things that you didn't see before. You're
Yeah.
gonna see a different angle of your husband or your wife that you didn't see before because you were always just dating and you were just like, always going out to dinner and having a good time. But when you're real with each other and you're open, like, this is me, this is how I am. And if you can still be with your husband and wife and accept them for who they are, like, this is who he is, this is how he's going to be. It's not my job to change you, it's not your job to change me,
Yeah.
but it is my job to accept you.
Yeah.
No matter what way, it is. And
Yeah.
sometimes you're not going to like things that I do, I'm not going to like things that you do, but I think that's where people butt heads, and then you start resenting each other. Like, I do so much for you,
I
and
know.
I pick up the slack, and I'm always doing this, and you don't appreciate this. I think when you get into those conversations, it never ends well.
Yeah.
Um,
I
you
just heard
know,
this other thing, by the way, where the guy's like famous entrepreneur, and he's like, how do you, he's been married to his wife forever, and he's like, there's no scorecard, and he's
yeah,
like, what people do is scorecards, like, oh, you didn't do this for me, well, I'm not going to do this for you, and then resentment comes and all
yeah,
that stuff. So at the end, it was like a 1 minute rant he had, but at the end, he's like, there's not enough I could do for my wife, and there's not enough that she could do for me because there is no score.
hmm,
And I was like,
yeah.
that is great.
I
I
like
mean,
that.
yeah, that's great.
I never heard that. You never
Yeah,
told me that
yeah,
before.
yeah. I think I sent it to you. But yeah, no, that's awesome, and
That
that's how
is,
you should
yeah.
think. There is no score. Even in Sikhi, there is no pluses and minuses,
Mm,
right? You're gonna love
yeah,
everybody. You should give it your all or not. I mean, that's
yeah,
the Punjabi love stories too. You give it your all or you don't half-ass stuff.
yeah,
So, but people, even I guess the younger generation, they like to keep score. There's no
yeah.
score, no score.
I mean, I get it. When you are looking for a husband or a wife, you look for certain things. You don't know them, but when you
Yeah,
fall in love, I feel like all that goes out the window.
yeah,
The scorekeeping, like, that person could do no wrong in your eyes when you're in love. That's just
yeah.
how it is. That's what unconditional love means, right? But then reality hits when you get married. You have responsibilities, you have families, you have other people in your core circle. It's not just you and your wife.
Mm,
So sometimes it gets hard to balance that, and
right.
manage family life, and be a son and a daughter-in-law and a father and a mother and a sister and all that. So I could see why people think it gets tough, especially then when there's other factors, like maybe you don't like your job, maybe
Right.
that's another point of stress for you, and then you come home and then you're like, oh man, my wife is mad at me for this reason, or oh, I could never, like, do enough, or my husband is always thinking that I'm not good enough. So those kind of things, then it gets stressful. But I think your marriage, that relationship, that should be like your best friend. You should want to come home to them, you should want to talk to them. So for me, that's what it's always been like when you
Mm.
walk into the room, I always get excited. Like, even
Oh.
if, yeah, I never told you that.
That's nice. I'm
Well, now
glad
you
this
know.
podcast is we're live. Yeah.
Even 13 years later,
Yeah.
and I have that feeling.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it happens over time. Of course, it's always excitement in the beginning,
Right.
honeymoon phase,
Right.
but I think the real trick is to keep that excitement going.
Yeah.
Just always, even if it's like a joke here and there, like, you're always finding ways to make me laugh. You're always finding ways to do little things for me, like, oh, I'm going to Starbucks, and you wouldn't tell me, but you're gonna get my, like, favorite drink from there without me knowing, or you're just gonna, I'm cooking food, but then you'll order, like, my favorite dish, without telling me. So you'll surprise me here and there, and I always expected, maybe this is the romantic in me, like chocolates and flowers and you know, surprise candlelight dinners and things like that, which hasn't happened, but that's okay. But you do things in your own way, um, and that's how you show your love and your affection. And I've I notice that and I appreciate that. And I think when you appreciate the little things, big things are always going to happen. There's always going to be some stressors, right? You're never always going to be in love every day, all day. But I
Right.
think that person, when you come home to, or they come home to you, that should feel comforting to you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Then all the outside noise kind of dies down because you're like, I'm home, I'm with my husband, my wife. Like, this is just, it's a blessing to be home and to just like spend time with you
Right.
no matter what's going on, you
Right.
know?
Right. Right.
So shit happens, but
I mean, I think I yeah. I mean, for everyone like, gets all soggy on this podcast, like, look, these lovebirds.
sorry.
But no, no, no. But there are some things, and
Yeah.
let's get into that,
Uh-oh.
uh, which I realized how to deal with. So,
Yeah.
like, one of the things that took me by surprise from you is that you would just forget things, and so that would bother like me a lot. Like, I would just tell you, hey, can you do this today? Can that happen? Can you pick me up this? And you would just forget, and I would like tell you something like 2 days before, and then that time comes and you're like, oh shoot, like that just I just couldn't believe that you were forgetting.
I
Like, I
know.
don't know how forgetful you were. I just didn't. And I didn't know that while we were dating. And so when we got married, and the first year, second year, but then like 5 years in, you're like forgetting things still. And I'm like,
The
okay.
early dementia kicking
And I'm
in.
like, that's my joke for you. But then I realized, like, I had to train myself on, like, to remind you. I
Mm-hmm.
had to train myself, like, okay, just because you told her once doesn't mean she's gonna do it. So you remind it. And if you still forgot, I put it on myself. I'm like, no, that's my fault. I should have picked up the phone. I should have called you and texted you for another reminder. You
Yeah.
know, I should have done it. So I stopped blaming you, because then I realized, back to the thing that you were saying, that we change. Like, I'm not going to change you, and I'm not going to change you. That's how you are. I'm
Yeah.
not going to fix you forgetting things. That's just how you are. But how am
Yeah.
I going to like live with it and adapt to it?
Yeah.
And so that took me a while, though. That took me a while. Now it's all good,
Yeah.
but it took me a while to be like, okay, I gotta say it like these many times. I gotta make sure she knows it the night before. I gotta text her during the day. Like, it took me a while, and if I don't do it, I blame myself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't I
Yeah.
don't blame you anymore for those things. So that's how
Good.
you got to change and adapt.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
that's what
glad.
that was.
I'm very happy that
But
you're adapting.
but that was one of my things where I'm like, I can't believe this girl keeps forgetting. Like, does she love me? Does she not love me? Like, how'd she forget this?
See,
So
but that doesn't equate into me not loving you.
I know,
That's just
I know,
me. So, but
I
yes,
know,
I know. I
I
know.
know.
I have a
But that
problem.
is one of the
Yeah.
things I had to get used to.
Yeah.
One of the major things. I know
Yeah.
for some people it might not be major, but for me, a person that doesn't forget,
Yeah.
a person that is on time. I'm very punctual.
I know.
Somebody calls me over at like 8 o'clock or wants me to be there on time, I am there within that 5 minute grace period of the time. Right. I another.
Yeah. Word of advice: if Manpreet calls you over, do not be late, please.
No, because I respect time.
Yeah.
I respect time. I respect other people's time, and I
You
hope they
do.
respect my time.
Yeah,
So
you
that's how
do.
I do it. But your family, not into the whole time thing. Time is just like
Why you gotta bring my family into
some
this?
time is some like weird construct that the world made. It doesn't really matter. so,
It's called
so
Indian Standard Time,
yeah,
by the
yeah.
way.
I an Indian like that.
Punjabi
So
Standard Time, okay? That's the thing too.
I guess I'm not Punjabi like that. But yeah, so those are the things,
Yeah,
the timings, and that's what I was like, okay, I got to get used to
I
this.
know. Yeah, and so I
What
mean,
about you?
those are the things. There's so many. I mean, the list goes on. I'm kidding. Um, there really, there really isn't. It's not a long list, but I just feel like it goes back to us just being different personalities. You're more of a planner. You're more of a like a go-getter. When once you want to do something, you get it done. And I'm more relaxed and laid back. So my personality, it comes with, like, I think, pros and cons. I'm more chill, I'm more relaxed. It takes a lot for me to get angry. It takes a lot for me to like really get pissed off because I feel like I always give people the benefit of the doubt. Everyone is like, no one's perfect, but I always kind of try to look at the good side of things. But then the downside is that, when you want to get things done or things are time sensitive, I have a problem. I forget. And you have to remind me like the night before or the day before. It can't be like the week before. Um, but yeah, so things with your personality, like you you tend to get irritated more with certain things, things that don't bother me. Like if someone is late, that will irritate you. I'm okay. I'm just like, hey, they're gonna come. If not now, half hour, 40 minutes later, they'll be here. But if someone's like not saying the right thing, or you're very into Sikhi, you're very into like history. If you know someone is just talking and they're not exactly accurate with their historical information, you're gonna say something. You're gonna be like, no, I don't think you're right over here. Me, I'm just like, I don't really, I'm not gonna interrupt the person. I'll be like, hey man, that's what you think. All right, that's great. Where's the food? So I think certain personalities come with pros and cons, but then at the same time, I feel like things I love about you also go with your personality. Like I love it. I love that you are outspoken. I love that you speak your mind, because I don't do that. Sometimes I wish I can, like you. I admire that. And you say what's on your mind, and you're more articulate. Like you can have a conversation with so many different people on different topics, and you love it. You thrive on that, you know? So I just feel like personalities are different, but there's pros and there's cons to every personality. But in a marriage, yeah, you just gotta accept the person for who they are, you know.
Yeah.
And even like the things about them that irritate you, you just gotta be like, that's just the way it is. I still love this person. Like you gotta look at the good side. That's why you married them. It's just human nature. I feel like we are all evolving. Like we have things that we brought into the marriage that were not the greatest in us, and we have to probably work on. I was not outspoken. I was very like more timid than you coming into a relationship.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that stuff I gotta work on. But I think a word of advice is like you have to work on yourself, because if there's something in you that maybe bothered you before or was a problem and kind of reared its ugly head before you got married, it's still going to be there after you get married. And it's going to find its way to like, creep in somewhere if you don't address that within you. Like you got to work on yourself. Like what
right.
are things you have to improve within yourself, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I totally agree. I think you brought a lot of patience. I didn't have that much patience with people. I didn't. I'm one of those people that I don't need more friends. We don't
Yeah.
need more friends, but uh, so I don't hang out with negative people. I don't want to be around them, or people that I just don't
Yeah.
get along with. Like I have no time. Like why? But you are more patient like that. You give people
Hmm.
the benefit of the doubt. We would hang out with other people and stuff. So it taught me like, okay, just relax, cool, take it easy. Not everything has to be thrown out. Whatever, you could take it
Yeah.
easy, have some, just hang out with people. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna happen to you. So that's good.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty of marriage too. Like
Right.
your husband or your spouse, like you just got to be a little gentle with each other, not. And oh, this is another big thing. I feel like if there is something that's bothering you or something your husband did or your wife did, like I will never call you out in front of other people
Right.
about it.
Right. I never do that at
I
all.
mean, maybe jokingly I might have said stuff, in front of my family or whatever, but that's like whatever, all jokes
Yeah.
aside.
Yeah.
But if there's a problem and I really want to talk to you about it, I will not say anything in front of other people. I think
Yeah.
that is the worst thing for your relationship.
It
you
is.
know.
It is. I see
You never
couples.
want to like,
I hang out with
yeah,
couples sometimes where they're doing that to each other in front of people, and I'm like, first of
it
all,
gets
awkward.
awkward.
And then I'm like, oh man, why am I here? I don't even know what to say. I don't know who to look at. I'm just gonna look at my phone. Am I even hearing this? Like, I
Where's the
know.
butter chicken?
Yeah,
Where's
no,
the
no, no,
naan?
man. The couples that do that, oh
Yeah.
man, I
I don't
I
know.
feel so
I don't.
worried.
I mean, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I've been there too, and
yeah.
it's just awkward. But I don't know. Maybe that's just their way of
I know.
putting it out there. Because they can't talk about it in private or they're not comfortable enough. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's a big no-no.
it helps nobody.
Yeah. And after
Right.
a while, I feel like if you just sleep on it, sometimes the next day it's not even an issue.
I know. Most
Whatever
of them
that
aren't.
whatever that problem
Mo-
was, whatever was irritating you, most of the time by the next day it's not an issue.
yeah. You
But
know,
yeah.
that's the thing. In the same talk, I mean, this is for six listening. In the same talk, where I referenced my cousin and he's giving that advice,
Mm,
Guru Nanak Sahib mentions that a true lover doesn't look at a person's pluses or minuses. So if you
mm,
are going to really love somebody, you don't look at, their pros and cons. You
mhm.
just love them for who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. So if you just take advice, I mean, this is Guru Nanak. Who's higher than Guru Nanak? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So this is from the highest person,
Yeah.
the highest, you know,
Source.
highest source in Sikhi. So I don't know. It's one of those things that always stuck with me.
Mm,
Even if something happens, rarely happens, but if something happens, I think of that. I'm like, oh, those pluses and
yeah.
minuses. And it's in a bunch of Punjabi songs too. Even if you listen to Punjabi songs, go listen to it.
Yeah.
I think
It's tough.
even I still remember like Gurdas Man's line. He has a song. He has a lot of songs on love and couples, but there's this one on marriage, and then he's like, the song is "Mere ave maya kadi tu main laya," but the
Mm,
line is that always sticks with me too is ਕਦੇ ਕਦੇ ਸੋਹਣਿਆ ਲੜਾਈ ਚੰਗੀ ਪਿਆਰ ਦੀ ਪਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਵੇ ਨਾ ਗੱਲ ਜਿੱਤ ਹਾਰ ਦੀ ਹਾਰ
mm.
ਚ ਵੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਸਵਾਦ ਵੇ ਸਪਾਈਆ ਮੇਰੇ ਆਵੇ ਮਾਇਆ ਕਾਦੀ ਤੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਲਾਇਆ. It was such a good line. I'm like, that's true. Yeah, you could have fights. You
Yeah.
should have fights.
You
You should have
should.
arguments, but
Yeah.
it's not about winning or losing.
Yeah.
It's about it's not about that at all.
No.
And even if you lose or I lose that argument or whatever,
Is it
there's some
really losing?
is it really losing? There's a sweetness to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, your bond just got stronger.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah, it's such
The
great.
arguments or like whatever disagreements we did have, um, the few times when we did actually get to talk about it, it was just, I feel like it did just make us stronger after that because we
Yeah, of course.
never had to have that conversation again
Right,
after that,
right. That's true. That's
you
true.
know.
Yeah,
So we were able to move past it and um, it's just, yeah, I just feel like our relationship is always just like a safe place, a safe space, a comforting, a fun space, where we could just be ourselves. But
right,
but yeah, you learn about each other. Like I know what ticks you off, and I also know what you like.
right.
So like you want to do that for your husband. You want to make him his favorite food. You want to make him laugh.
Yeah,
You want to do those little things, and I feel like it's the little things day to day that really keep the spark going and keep the excitement going. Because you're not going to have like a candlelit dinner every day,
no, and you shouldn't.
You shouldn't, yeah,
No, they're not going to mean anything.
right.
Yeah.
So,
But how do you doesn't mean you don't love each other as much. It's not
right.
about the material things, it's about the thought behind it. Everyone says, "Oh, it's not about the gift, it's the thought behind it." So then okay, then focus on the thought
Yeah.
behind it. If it's not about the gift. I mean, it's a famous saying that's been around for ages. Focus on the thought and focus on why
Yeah.
you're here. Why you love each other, how you going to, make this marriage bigger and better. That's what I think of.
Yeah.
How we're going to make this family bigger and better, create a legacy, do all those things together. I don't yeah, so
I think just being yourself. Like I feel like I am still learning. Sometimes I refrain myself because that's just me. I'm just I think more about things before I do it. But when you can just be yourself and then grow, Like we've grown over the 13 years.
Oh yeah.
I'm not the same person I was 13 years ago when
True.
I first got married.
True.
You
Same.
know,
Same.
I'm a little bit more, outspoken. I think I'm a little bit more wise, so I can have that under my belt. But when you can grow together and improve, and learn about each other and still be like, oh, well, I want to do this for my husband because I know he loves this, even if
Right.
it's not our anniversary or it's not our,
Yeah.
birthday or whatever. Like just do those little things day to day that will bring happiness. And it's just the the hard parts get easier, I feel like,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
What's your love language? Let's wrap it up with this.
Okay,
Okay.
that's a good one.
Let's do this. Let's wrap this podcast up. Everyone talks. I didn't even know about these things till last year. But what's your love language?
I don't know how many there are. I think there was like four or five, but mine would definitely be acts of service and
Yeah. Yeah.
physical touch. Is that one of them? Physical affection.
Yeah. Yeah. I think mine's is physical too. Words are nice though. If that's
Words
like a
of affirmation.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
All right. Next time.
Yes.